Okay, let's get this started here, folks. Now, I tried touching upon this a little bit when I first kind of got started on. Oh, when I was tried to do this a little bit before, a couple of years back, but let's go ahead and switch on the webcam here. Lots of backlighting again. Let's just turn on the light for now. Okay, so I'm going to first off, I need to see whether or not I'm going to be doing any kind of if I need to update Unity. It's been probably about a year or two since I've really tried to mess around with it, and even then I didn't really have a whole lot of time to work with it. So I'm going to see what I can do with this, but first I need to check to see if there's an update on the program. Okay, so here, let me switch over to what I'm looking at here. So go live, and so my version is fairly old, I would imagine, 5.5. I believe there's obviously been some updates since then. Just looking at the let's see. Free version of Unity for beginners, additional support, training, and services. Limitation supply. That's kind of standard. Obviously I'm just doing this for my own personal benefit. So let's see. Yeah, it's definitely an upgraded version, so let's go ahead and take care of that real quick. So this is going to be an experience for me, because it's been a good minute or two since I've actually done any, solid programming. I attempted to work on it at my last job, but my last job really didn't have that much. Maybe scripting, and even then, it didn't really focus on the programming side of things. So I'm hoping that I can actually kind of use this as something to kind of keep me moving forward. I often have a hard time trying to stay focused at home uh, because I have, uh, as you've probably seen in the other streams, I do play games, and while I do enjoy them, um, uh, it was never really an option for me to like go pro at it or anything along those lines. At least when I was kind of starting out. So uh, my options when I went to college was, uh, do I look at mathematics or do I look at computer science? Both of which, I had, in my opinion, a strong-ish understanding for. I mean, uh, it was never, I never considered myself like one of the elites, like someone that could look at code, knew exactly what needed to be done instantaneously, and um, could basically build something from scratch that's like amazing. Um, I always needed some help from time to time for, whatever class that I had. So, uh, so I'm not up there with the genius level. Um, but I'm not exactly dumb with programming either. I mean, I understand the concepts. I understand what needs to be. Uh, I understand what needs to be. Um, the process, the logic of like working through all of that. Um, so while I'm not, uh, so while I'm not exactly the best, I can't say that I'm the worst either. So, um, as what as one of my as one of my professors once told me, I'm average. So, okay. It's kind of difficult to actually hear that from one of your professors, especially when you kind of want to pursue something. But I mean, I can't really fault him for it either. You know, I, he didn't, you know, I never, I hardly ever failed any of my classes, but at the same time, I wasn't like the straight A student either. At most, I was like a B to C student, you know. So, but um, yeah, you know, I look at the mathematics and I look at the computer science. Um, I'm fairly strong with mathematics. I mean, I've completed um, all the years of calculus I've done in differential equations and linear algebra. Um, but after completing calculus 3, I was noticing the fact that it was going more towards the theory, and that's a concept that I was kind of really struggling with. So, um, let's see. Let's make sure that I'm. Oh, main screen is on the main focus there. Okay, let's. Sorry, folks. I missed the fact that my main screen is on top of everything. So let's go ahead and move that right down to the bottom there. There we go. Okay, so uh, to be honest, tip jar isn't really necessary right at the moment, so I'm just going to go ahead and remove that for now. I'm not an affiliate yet, so there's no point in like bits or anything along those lines. So, uh, so to get back to what I was talking about, so as I was kind of looking more and more at mathematics, I was noticing um, that if I wanted to get a degree in it, I would have to study more of the theory aspect of it, and um, I knew that I would struggle with it and uh, most likely fail. Um, it's it was not something that I felt comfortable with in pursuing. So I pretty much got the minimal that I needed uh, to get a degree in computer science, and I moved on to uh, I changed my focus from you know doing a mathematics degree into something for computer science. Um, Now the colleges that I went to, C, Java, were the main languages for those colleges. So that's where a lot of my background is. Um, but the um, but you know, I was able to get my degree, but I couldn't really prove that I could actually do the job uh, to companies more often than not. I mean, I got 2 jobs in the industry, but one closed its doors because it didn't have any other contracts. So, um, and I was a new hire, so they kept with their seniors and let me go. Which I mean, I can't fault them for that. And the second didn't like the fact that I didn't actually learn SQL, which was an elective. Database design was an elective course in the colleges that I went to, so I never picked it up, and they weren't willing to instruct me on it. So as soon as they found out that I didn't know SQL, which they never mentioned the fact that it was a requirement for the job, um, I was let go after a year there. So they might have had like other reasons there. I don't really know. Um, I could just kind of tell that the manager kind of uh, didn't really view me in a positive light after hearing that kind of detail. So, uh, not to say that I didn't. I thought I was doing a decent job with the work that I was doing. I mean, I learned Cold Fusion from scratch, and I was doing the projects that they wanted me to do. I was correcting the client's websites, but I guess that wasn't enough. So, uh, here I am trying to move on, and why is this taking so long? Okay, so yeah, okay. Still removing all the old uh, information, I guess. I Sorry, folks. I really should have done this prior to the stream, but at least you can kind of see uh, that uh, I'm going to be kind of starting from scratch on this. So, uh, while it's doing that, let's go ahead and look into that up to the side there. Okay, so small projects to get you started. Okay. So this is just basically me going to be going through these tutorials. So if you don't really care about that per se, oh, I can see that's kind of right where my webcam is. Let me move this down a little bit so everybody can kind of see what's going on. There we go. So, so let's get started. Okay. Try out testing a ready-made game and edit mode to adjust it. How to use this interactive tutorial. Okay. Takes place entirely inside the Unity editor. To launch it, simply visit the Learn area of the Unity Hub. Launch window that appears when you open Unity as shown in the image below. Click the download button to listen to the scripture. First bar will appear and content is downloaded. Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. Once content is ready, download button will turn into start button. Click start, launch the interactive tutorial, and follow the instructions inside the tutorial panel. Okay. Well, let's see. Great start to this, huh? Didn't take the time to prep for this, but if anyone has any guidance or whatnot to work on this a little bit, I don't mind any kind of tips or progress along those lines. So oh, what's this? Okay, don't care about that email. The reason why I'm looking into Unity a little bit more is for one thing, you know, as you could probably tell, I do have, one of my hobbies is playing games. I it's it's just one of those things. I do enjoy. I do enjoy that. I also have friends that also enjoy playing games. I have friends that like making games. Um, I have a couple of them that want to make their own chessboards, or other board games and like whatnot. But it's difficult to kind of break into the industry. Um, so I figure this is, um, you know, I could try to use like C and Java to create myself, the basic tools that I'll probably never really use afterwards, which is, um, like a calculator or, um, a uh, phone book or, something along those lines to just, um, just to kind of keep up with the code skills. But I want something um, that I can continuously build on and I can send out to people that's a little bit more unique. Um, Something that I can kind of get feedback on, that I can challenge myself a little bit more on. Um, I mean, anyone that's ever done any kind of computer science, they can do the hello worlds and all that kind of stuff. But you know, um, I want to have something um, that will push my knowledge that I've learned over the years and continue, you know, I can continue to learn upon. Unity uh, has been making leaps and bounds in the gaming industry as in from my viewpoint a uh, an editor that allows for um, a little bit more uh, utility for making games. Now, I'm not saying that you know uh, you can't like make games with this C++, C Sharp, Python, and all of them because I mean that there's clearly examples for those languages on that, and um, but if I want something, uh, I'm just looking for something simple to start off with. I'm not looking to make the next civilization or anything along those lines. I'm looking for the simple like web app games or Android games or something like that. I'm just that's where my focus is right at this moment in time. Got to start small to get anywhere. Um, so, uh, so, I have an idea as to what I kind of want to make, um, and uh, that's that's what is going to kind of push me a little bit in the sense that I don't have the I don't have any art at all to really uh, add to the game. I don't have the um, I'm gonna have to look back on my AI knowledge um, to make the um, computer opponents that I'm planning on, stuff like that. So while it might be difficult in the long run to complete the project that I want to do, um, you know, seeing that it's something that I'm going to be working on myself. Um, the I'm hoping that Unity will give me the tools necessary to do it easily enough because um, when I look at C++, C Sharp, Python, um, I haven't used those to handle uh, the graphics of games. I'd never learned that particular uh, side of the code. I never got uh, the applying of the code into the uh, into the graphical. So uh, so I'm just going to try to work with Unity, which I know, you know, uh, you go to any kind of like the old style game websites, um, and you start seeing more and more Unity simple games being brought up. And that's what I kind of want to do to start off with. Um, Maybe at some point in time, I will find a job that is willing to take me on that can allow me to grow even further as a programmer. Uh, you know, learn from the uh, senior engineers, senior programmers to actually uh, enhance my skills. But I, I gotta work on myself. You know, so far, no one's wanted to kind of step forward and say, "Yeah, Jim, come join our team. Learn from uh, learn from your peers and get better." I haven't really had that much opportunity for that, at least on the programming side of things. So, yeah, I got a couple hours more. Oh, that's all right. Um, so, okay. Um, okay. Looks like we're getting a little bit closer to starting this up. Uh, so we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm still putting applications out there for software development jobs, you know, hoping that something will come about from it, but uh, so far that hasn't turned into anything. Um, I keep failing on the tests that people give me, and it's unfortunate. There's when it comes to software development, there's too many languages, too many topics, um, too many processes, too many algorithms to have it contained within my mind. Um, you know, we have the internet for a reason for getting information, but you can't. I mean, again, you know, I I give myself an excuse that there's too much for me to know. Um, but at the same time, I look at some of my peers, and you know, they're they're coding through all these programs like it's nothing, and it's like it kind of frustrates me at the fact that I'm limited by so much. But you know, this is what I kind of want to do. You know, while gaming is fun, um, I never saw it as a like a career. I mean, you can do it as a career, I guess. You know, but you have to have the talent for it. So, and you know, I'm uh, the I never saw myself as someone that was exceptional along those lines. I mean, I tried the fighting games, I tried the first-person shooters, um, and while I might not have been like the worst out of all of it, I was never, I was never the best. So, um, and back in the day when I was, I did play, um, I did play the fighting games and the first-person shooters. Um, it was during the time when esports wasn't wasn't a concept here in the States. So, um, you hear about, you heard about the tournaments that were going on that people were making money on StarCraft back in the day with in South Korea that, um, but uh, it hadn't gotten to that point here in the States that it could be considered as a job. I mean, you can still kind of try to go to tournaments and the like, but um, once again, the tournaments, um, were for like the competitive style gaming for fighting games and first-person shooters. Just couldn't do it. Just couldn't get through that. And even then, uh, you know, uh, I never really had the money to even consider trying to do one of those tournaments as it was anyway, to get to it and pay the entry fees to even consider that. So, uh, one way or another, it was never it was never something on my list of considerable careers. You know, uh, nowadays, um, nowadays that's an option for people, and more power to those people that can do it. Um, I started looking for something that I could use, that I could understand and that I can create. And that's what computer science did for me. It gave me an outlet to be creative, and it was easy enough for me to understand. It wasn't a concept where it was like um, the theory is like so far out there that it's like, no man, uh, I can't understand a single concept. I mean, I was teaching some of my classmates or some of my friends about what they needed to do to actually um, get through their programming courses because some of my friends weren't computer scientists. They were engineers, and they didn't really understand, um, you know, what the difference was between like an if and an else, for loop and a while loop. So, uh, you know, uh, the concept of having arrays start at 0 instead of 1, you know, these were things that some people just didn't understand. And it made sense for me. Um, you know, but I mean, everybody kind of starts off at somewhere. Um, so, uh, I'm sorry, guys. I'm just trying to fill in the void here to try to handle the downloading and all that kind of stuff on this. So bear with me on this while this gets handled. I mean, at least it gives you an idea as to how long it might take you if you ever were to try to work on Unity. Um, Plus, there was additional downloadable options that you can kind of do as well too. Um, you know, like if you wanted to go with a um, for like the Apple iPods or not iPods, what am I saying? iPhones, for example, there was an option on there. Um, while I might want to do that at some point in time, I just want to kind of get through the basics for right now. So, um, you know, uh, develop this game into something that, while I might not program it specifically for iPhone, I'll program it in a fashion where the addition of iPhone code won't be a detriment to the overall game. At least that's my intention. You always want to try to encapsulate your code into something that can be ported uh, uh, between the um, different platforms, or at least, you know, that's what I know. Um, so we'll see what we can do here on this. You know, how much damage we can actually cause. Um, you know, see if I can actually, you know, learn a little bit more. Try to expand about my skills and try to, uh, excuse me, you know, try to make something that that I can kind of be proud of, that I can send out to my friends and family, and um, you know, put it on marketplaces. Um, so uh, this will, you know, be a slow-ish journey, and I might do this. Um, I might like work on some of my own code in the background. So um, you know, I don't necessarily want someone to kind of come along and take my concept and run away with it. You know, use it for their own gains. But then again, um, you know, it's um, it's the concept of open source. Um, on one hand, I want to be able to kind of build this and learn from it, and you know, I don't necessarily want any outside uh, influence on it to take away from my learning. Um, but I also understand the fact that, you know, with open source, um, you're allowing professionals to um, kind of look at your code and improve upon it. So I'm kind of hoping that this stream will kind of work with me um, on improving my knowledge base to help me continue moving forward, make me into a stronger programmer, um, and allow me to kind of uh, keep moving forward in my life. You know, I don't want to be stuck in a like a retail job or anything along those lines. Not to say that, you know, that's terrible, but um, you know, the 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 programming that I've done in the past gives me a certain sense of accomplishment, pride, and satisfaction that, you know, I spent time to develop something. Um, you know, I can I can use my creative abilities and my mathematical abilities, my logic abilities to make something that um, that one would hope can stand the test of time. Um, you know, I don't really get that kind of satisfaction in retail jobs or anything along those lines. Uh, well, uh, don't get me wrong. You know, every little bit that you do, that you say, will affect someone somewhere. So I'm not saying that it's terrible or anything along those lines. Okay, don't get me wrong. Okay, I work for my money, just like any other red-blooded, human being on this planet to try to, you know, make a decent living. Okay, so whether it's uh, doing janitorial work to being, you know, military to government official, whatever. Okay, um, every single job has a um, certain place, and everything that you do has a certain uh, consequence. Um, I've just gotten more of the uh, I got more satisfaction doing coding than anything else. That's just the way it is. It's just hard to kind of show that desire um, to companies, I guess, and show that while I might not do the best on the tests, you know, it doesn't mean that I can't learn. I graduated from college showing that I can actually learn the material and show that I can actually apply the information that I have. I mean, I didn't drop out of college. I passed. I got through it. I had my degree. Of course, you guys can't see that. I can't show it to you right now, but still. Um, you know, Companies want the best of the best. And that's not me. You know, you know, it'd be nice if I can just go to a company and say, I'll do the most basic, crappiest of projects that you have, and you won't have one problem for me. Give me the worst projects. I'll do them. I'll work on them. Um, you know, uh, I learned Cold Fusion from scratch just so I can, um, kind of use that for the job. Um, I don't know. Yeah, you guys all understand where I'm kind of coming from now. So, uh, yeah, I definitely should have taken care of this earlier. Sorry about this, folks. I was kind of hoping that I could kind of get started on the tutorial fairly quickly. I should have looked into what updates, Unity had. So apologize. Apologies on that. Uh, Maybe, I plan on trying to do these kind of coding streams probably like once a week or something like that. I don't know. I'm debating on it right now. See see how far I can kind of come on this and see how much support I can get on it. I'm not expecting much. I mean, you know, my uh, the uh, it's I don't have a whole lot of followers already, and that's just from playing games. But I'm new to the whole streaming aspect as it is anyway. So I can't expect myself to you suddenly grow into something big and spectacular on the first day. Anyone that expects that is you know fooling themselves. Uh, we're in this ocean of streamers as it is, so. Um, but I'm hoping that just me kind of conveying who I am, what I've done, uh, where want to move forward in the future, uh, where I want to take myself, stands out to people, resonates with people. So, um, and who knows? Maybe if people want to um, do like a community coding session on some kind of new open software or open source kind of project, then I guess let me know. Uh, but obviously, you probably don't want to add me to that particular project until you can kind of see what I can and can't do. So, um, so still waiting on this. Let's see, a little bit more background, I guess. Uh, I remember one time, I actually think of, I forget exactly which class it was for, but we were doing, C projects, or, the simple C uh, programs. And it was like a once a week kind of deal, or like once every 2 weeks. Something, that didn't really, you know, uh, just kind of concept based programming. And I remember one time, I was quite happy with it that I actually programmed out uh, the the project. Went for a debug, and I got like zero errors. I put in the required input, got out the required output, no problems whatsoever. I even changed up the input a little bit just to try to see whether or not it would cause any additional problems. No problems whatsoever. I was like, this is the first time that I actually did a program that I didn't have any problems whatsoever. No errors, nothing. Nothing to debug. And I was quite proud of myself on that. Now, if you've been in the industry, you've most likely done that once in your life, if not more, yourself. And but having to do that and not have to worry about like debugging your code afterwards is one of the nicest feelings ever. It's that sense of, you know, I was able to do the requirements um, without any kind of problems, and that's kind of rare when it comes to programming. Don't get me wrong, okay? Um, or at least, based off of what I've seen anyway. Um, you know, it could, you could have a simple, off by one error, or, missing a semicolon, or missing a paren, and suddenly, you have, 50 errors that mean absolutely crap because it's it's um, it's pointing you to locations that you're like, you're out of memory, or uh, your code is failing in uh, um, some other object that it's like there's nothing wrong here. What's going on? But you know, um, it's one of those things where it's like the uh, uh, the more lines of code that you make, the easier it is to have some kind of mistake in there, one way or another. Um, it's not an easy profession to get into. Um, case in point. Um, so, and you need to have kind of like the right mindset for it. Okay. Um, it does require a certain amount of memory to understand the concepts. Um, and it does require some amount of understanding as to what is happening, at the base level of the computer. Okay. The fact that when it comes to computers, uh, you know, all computers understand is ones and zeros. Okay. How that gets uh, changed around, and how those ones and zeros interpret to the letters that you see on the screen, you know, it's all built up uh, to where it's at right now. I mean, don't even get me started on the operating system. That's a I applaud people that are doing operating system work because um, the the sheer amount of time and resources to build an operating system, well, relatively from scratch, um, is is amazing kind of aspect. You know, um, you know, I personally don't use a Linux operating system, but at the same time, I applaud those folks that put their time and effort into developing it. Okay. Um, I've just seen, um, as a graphical utility that an operating system has become. Um, I've just encountered more problems with Linux on the graphical side than I have with Windows. You know, uh, does that mean that I never want to use Linux? No, no, that doesn't mean that. Um, it's just something that you know uh, I've had just slightly more reliability with Windows than I have with Linux. That's just my personal opinion, kind of thing, folks. Don't take it here and there on it. Okay. Um, I do appreciate the fact that you can use um, the fact that Linux is a uh, uh, Unix-based operating system, and you can code in C, almost without any problems on a Unix system is fantastic. I did enjoy that kind of process. Um, but at the same time, I was able to crash Unix just by simple clicks, and I was like, you know, now don't get me wrong, Windows has its problems too. I mean, blue screen of death became became commonplace. You know, the fact that we have the term blue screen of death is, just one of those key aspects of, uh, uh, why Windows had its issues. But I don't remember ever really doing anything with Windows that caused a blue screen of death directly. More often than not, it was a problem with like applications or the like that had memory management issues, and that happens. You know, you work with C, you work with C++, and you're gonna have some amount of memory issues one way or another. You know, so so I hope people can kind of cut me some slack with the fact that I'm using a Windows operating system other than Linux. Um, Maybe later on down the line, I'll get myself like another desktop. I'll put Linux on it, and we can continue programming on that. We'll see. I mean, uh, you know, the I'll need to see whether or not the um, excuse me. I'll need to see whether or not if I continue like coding in Unity, whether or not uh, I can kind of put some of those resources on a Unix or a Linux operating system. Um, Actually, I didn't even look to see whether or not you could download it for it. Um, but if I don't have Unity on Linux, then I can always look to see about just coding in something else. Hell, I can probably just code up something in Python and transfer it over to something else or whatnot. We'll see. We'll see what happens. So, okay. Um, I'm getting a little bit closer to the application. No, let's not put that there. Oh boy. Now, um, at some point in time, I probably will be doing something to like throw the application uh, on an Android, so I'm gonna be kind of looking forward to that. Um, hmm. Interesting that the download had still text there. Uh, oh. Hmm. Okay. That's not good. It's telling me that I need to reboot. Uh, will allow me to actually use this without the without the restart. Probably not. If it does require a restart, then I'm probably gonna have to shut down the stream for a temporary portion, and I'll start it back up again. We'll see what happens. Okay. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to shut this the stream down real quick, do this restart, and then I'll try to bring up the stream as soon as I can, folks. So bear with me while I take care of this, okay? So be right back, okay? Stay tuned. Okay. Sorry about the wait there, folks. Got it restarted. But first, I want to make sure that Unity is actually working for me here real quick. So give me a minute to bring up the Unity program here real quick and see if there is anything else that I need to do. Most likely need to like confirm the license or whatnot, you know, put in the additional details. I guess for the time being, I'll just switch over to the webcam here. There we go. Might take a minute or two to, you know, for it to kind of come up and for me to handle any of the logging in or anything along those lines. So. Got my phone active so that if there's any kind of chat, I can kind of interact with you folks. So thank you for being here there, strangers. Appreciate it. Interesting. Okay, so it's looking like it's already kind of putting me into the program. There was the initial screen was kind of was all about the fact that it wasn't restarted. So, all right, now that that's all well and done, move things around here so everybody can kind of see a little bit. There's that. Okay. So let's go ahead and switch over to live so you guys can kind of see what I'm looking at here. Okay, so let's get started on this. I have the latest Unity available for a personal creation. So now I'll just switch over to learn, and we'll just go one through, you know, through each of these to just try to uh, work through it all. Now, like I said, I did try, like, working on the roll a ball, using the Unity version 5.05, 5.5, but we're just going to start right from scratch again. So let's go ahead and do this whole download, play, and edit mode and see where we can go from there. So, uh, sorry for the quick cut. Oh, interesting. It downloads it directly into the program here, but it doesn't actually automatically launch it. Okay, so let's go ahead and download these others, because eventually I will get to them, so better to just download them now, might as well, right? Okay, so let's go through this play and edit mode here. We'll see what happens here. Now, the what I'm planning on doing later is, and most likely probably in my own time kind of aspect, I will be creating something that my friends gave me a layout of what they imagined for a game. So basically, I'm going to take uh, their concept and try to put it into a 2D map with various elements in it. So, um, so it's gonna take a certain amount of work to try to iron out all the details, and um, I'm definitely not going to say that it's easy, because you know projects by yourself, especially something that could be as expensive, is what I'm thinking. Um, it could take a single person a year or two to handle it all. So, um, you know, obviously, the simpler the game, the easier it is for a single program to actually uh, flesh it out. Uh, Teams are able to kind of uh, balance everything out. New version of Unity Editor available for download. Why wasn't this on their uh, download page to begin with? Yeah, well, uh, just in case, I'm gonna let this kind of proceed. I'll hold off on the editor update for now. Um, so I know Unity can do 3D. Um, I'm I'm probably gonna have some amount of difficulty trying to handle that directly, kind of aspect. So, um, yeah, okay. I got rid of the update window. Hmm. Oh well, okay. So, play mode and edit mode. When we make a game in Unity, the basic steps are we make changes to our game, we test those changes by playing our game. Um, Standard Agile. We repeat this loop many times as we work on our game. In this tutorial, we will learn how to test our game. Um, if you're not aware of what I just said by agile, um, there's multiple different concepts of programming out a package, an application, whatnot. Um, the One of the methods that used to be kind of that the mindset of um programming out something was what was called the waterfall, which is they did a step-by-step process to get a program from the very beginning of the process all the way to its finished product. However, this process was um, code out everything all at once, debug, and then, obviously fix any of the errors or whatnot with that debug. And once that is completely done, then you move on to the testing of it, and any kind of cleanups and whatnot. But there was never any kind of new assets added into the program, because that's all handled at the very beginning of the waterfall. Uh, you think of all the processes that you want to handle in your application. You figure out what is necessary to get those processes taken care of, and then you go into the coding phase. You code out all that processes, debug all the errors or whatnot, and then you go into the QA process, which was fix any problems that you might have with it, and then you release it pretty much afterwards, kind of aspect. There's no there's never a point where you go back and you add any like additional uh, uh, and anything that you kind of want to add to the program that really doesn't work in a waterfall kind of situation. Um, if you don't have that uh, uh, utility, or you know uh, if there's concepts that you didn't think of at the very beginning, and you could probably use that in based off of what you found in the debugging. Sorry, that doesn't fit in the whole waterfall concept. You would pretty much have to kind of scrap the entire project and kind of start from the beginning again. So waterfall is really strict when it comes to that kind of management of a program. So agile uh, gives you that flexibility. If you find something you you initially like figure out what you kind of want to do with the program. Figure out that what you want to see, what you want to do. You start making the necessary determinations of what you want to see or do during the entire process, and then you start coding out a little bit, test, code out a little bit, test, code out a little bit, test. If there's something that you want to add or change or remove from the entire process, it's still part of the program and test phase. You're not having to go all the way back to the initial concept phase in order to get that done. You find something that you want to actually add and whatnot, you go back to in the agile, you handle it. Okay, so okay, let's continue. Highlighted window is called the tutorial window. Instructions and information will appear there. At the top right of the window is the home button. To return to the tutorial section at any time, click the home button. Next to the home button is the restart button. To restart the current tutorial at any time, click the restart button. Okay, fairly easy. Okay. High-level window is called a scene view. You build a Unity game out of scenes. Makes sense? Scenes in Unity are like containers. They contain the world, the characters, everything that is part of our game. Interesting. Okay. This scene contains a single level of our game. We can use the scene view to view and arrange the objects in our scene. Okay. Makes sense. Um, uh, I've never, when you think of like the open world style of like games or whatnot, I've never considered Unity to be a tool for that. I could be wrong. Feel free to, tell me and say that you can do like open worlds in Unity. I appreciate that kind of information. But based off of what I've seen with the Unity so far, it's always been like a level by level kind of design for them. Um, so open world kind of uh, processes um, aren't one of those utilities that Unity has. I could be completely wrong. If that's, I may run into that later. We'll see. I'm just stating what I know right now, which could be completely wrong. So don't take my word for it, please. The highlighted window is called the game view. The game view shows what the player sees when they play our game. We can test our game in the game view. Okay. To test our game now, enter the play mode. In the controls on the top center of the Unity editor, locate the play button, click the play button to enter play mode, move character to the goal. Okay. So this will start up that. Move character to the goal. Use the WASD or arrow keys on your keyboard to move the character to the goal. The goal is marked by a moving arrow. Use the escape key on your keyboard to restart this level. Okay, so, I can actually move this guy around however I want to. Moving them into these little barriers here. Now, whenever you're testing out a game, or whenever you're uh, trying out, something that you made, you want to try uh, and cause problems with your program as much as you possibly can. So I'm having some fun here because I'm just seeing if this tutorial is actually, has any problems with their walls. Because that's one of the main problems with designing this kind of process, is that if you don't have your initial level design kind of fixed, um, then you're just going to cause problems for you later down the line. Someone's going to find a bug and cause additional problems with it. Now, there is one thing that I'm kind of noticing a little bit about this, is the fact that you can barely see it, but as I approach my character a little bit closer to the corner here, there is a slight, like, grayish point, like right there, that kind of disappears as you get closer. So, I don't know. It could be, uh, you know, it could be completely nothing, maybe it's just a small little graphical anomaly that I'm seeing, or maybe it was because the windows completely wasn't completely full. I don't really know. Um, Now that I've kind of expanded out the window a little bit, it's not there, so who knows? But it's something that you kind of need to be aware of whenever you're making these kind of um, projects, because um, you want to kind of test out all the different, keyboard commands, the, whether or not your, animated characters animating correctly, which, they're doing a pretty decent job with this so far. I mean, I haven't really found too many issues with this kind of aspect, but I mean, that makes sense. I mean, if you want to try to demonstrate your product to people in your tutorials, then you want to make sure that you have it clean, So if I find like a single mistake in here, then that says something about how much time and effort they put into the tutorials to teach upcoming designers on this. If this wasn't clean, if this wasn't, bug-proof kind of aspect, then, how does that reflect on the creators of the product? I mean, if your product is is terrible in its tutorial, then what does that say about the on the project itself? So far I'm liking the fact that I'm really not seeing too much problems with this. So this tells me that they took the time and the effort to make sure that there was no problems in their application. So, but I've only tested out the arrow keys, so let's switch over to the WASD, and so far it's looking pretty good. And it's running fairly fast, so I mean it's not like I'm having any troubles with, like, if there's some problems with like memory leaks or anything along those lines. There doesn't seem to be any kind of indicators of that. Everything's running fairly smooth, so that's fairly decent. But let's continue and see if there's any problems on this little interior room. Alright, so let's interesting. Okay, so I'm looking at this right now, and the it's focused on the player right here, and its little fireworks show and all that kind of stuff. But you look up here, and you're seeing animations of these fireworks that are off screen. Why even bother having them if your focus is so focused on the player like that? You're basically wasting resources and graphics just having these fireworks that aren't even being shown on the main screen. I don't know. So, okay, click the play button to exit play mode. Okay, well done, exit play mode. In this tutorial, we learned how to test our game in the Unity editor, how to move between edit mode and play mode. Well, okay. We didn't really learn too much about moving between them, per se, because it showed off the editor and it showed off the game screen, but, whatever. Alright, we'll move on. Okay, so we just finished off the play and edit mode, so let's move on to the game objects and components. Do you want to keep this project? Any changes that you made to it will be lost if you don't keep it. I didn't make any changes, so might as well just forget it. Okay. Interesting that it's having to restart the utility here a little bit. Is it removing the previous plain edit mode? Because I said forget? It's not really clear on that. So I'm gonna assume because it's preparing and importing packages that it's setting up for the game objects and components portion of the tutorial. It's the only thing that I can kind of go on. Okay, we build games in Unity using the game objects and components. You'll have to excuse me for the background noise. My roommates are watching TV downstairs, so hopefully that's it's not too much of a distraction for you all. Why it's taking its time for this one. Well, there's a lot more to it, I guess, you know, with the 1 in 16. But, I mean, we're here, so... Okay, we build games in Unity using game objects and components, okay? In this tutorial, we learn about game objects and components and use our knowledge to fix problems at another level of our game. Okay, so everything we can see in our scene is a game object. Okay, that applies to Java a little bit. Everything in Java is pretty much an object in one sense or another. Game objects are the building blocks of Unity. Game object in its own doesn't do anything. We add things called components to game objects to change how they look and behave. Component tells Unity what a game object does, such as move or make a sound. Okay. Let's test our game and see what problem we must solve first. Enter play mode. Okay. Okay. Use the WASD or arrow keys on your keyboard to move the character to the green triangle marker. Use the escape key on your keyboard to restart this level. Okay, well, I don't necessarily need to restart it, but... okay, so the arrow keys work. WASD works, so... Okay, move to the green arrow. Okay, we can't complete this level because we can't get past the laser. Exit play mode. You made the change. To make a change to our game, we must leave play mode, click the play button to exit play mode. Well, it's telling me that we can't complete, but let's confirm. Ooh, Yep, and Okay, so basically laser is like an instant death. Let's try to not hit the green arrow there and just try to move around it. Nope, no matter how far I can run, it will eventually kill me off. Okay, So we'll exit out and move on. Exit play mode. We can't move any further because the black swan game object doesn't fall when the green platform moves. Oh, okay. So the black swan object. To make the box game object fall, we must add a component to it. The component is called a rigid body. Rigid body components are part of Unity's built-in physics system. Okay. Adding a rigid body component to a game object means that the game object will be affected by physics, forces such as gravity. Okay. To add a component to the game object, we must first select it. Select the box 1 game object. In the scene view, click on the box 1 game object to select so. Okay. To add a component, okay, so we go on to next. The highlighted window is called the inspector window. Okay. When we select a game object, we see information about it on the inspector window. Makes sense. Okay. Position, rotation, scale, mesh, materials, anchor override, cast shadows, motion vectors. As you can see, there is a lot of information just in the inspector window itself. So interesting, helpful. So this allows for a lot of different changes or whatnot. Oh, you guys can actually hear what I'm hearing because of the fact that I don't actually have the headset active. Here, let me go ahead and change that real quick. There we go. Now you guys can actually hear what I'm hearing. Which, I mean, wasn't much. I mean, the lasers was just, you know, giving off that hum and buzz and stuff like that. So not a whole lot lost on that. I mean, if you want me to remove the sound, just let me know in the Steam and we'll move on. So, alright, continuing on. We can use the inspector window to add a component to the selected game object. Add a rigid body component to the selected game object. In the inspector window at the bottom, click the Add Component button. In the menu that appears, click on the physics and then choose rigid body. This will add a component called rigid body to the current selected game object. Okay, so add component, physics, rigid body. Okay. Next, to test the change we have made and see what happens now that the cube game object is affected by physics forces, into play mode. Okay. Once again, let's go ahead and move the character around using the different keys, making sure that those work. Whenever you're testing anything, folks, doing it over and over and over again is pretty much essential. When you add something, you don't know how it might affect how the game kind of works. What you might add for one particular aspect might be detrimental to something else. So if you've encapsulated everything, then you shouldn't have to worry about it too much. But you never know. You know, if you might have messed up on maybe the the memory or something along those lines, then maybe you adding something extra to the memory is affecting some other memory location. But you know, just bear that in mind if you ever do this kind of stuff in your own time, kind of thing. You know, while I'm taking this tutorial, I'm just going to basically, mention what stuff that I've experienced, and hopefully I can kind of impart some amount of wisdom onto whoever's watching. So, yeah, so we're going to continue on. So before we step on the green arrow, I'm going to go ahead and kill myself. Oh, there it goes. So, so the box didn't stop the laser on time. So, although as you can see there, the hitbox for this triangle is really large. But maybe that's something that can be corrected a little bit later. I mean, I'm not even stepping on the green triangle whatsoever, and it still affected the process. So, okay, so we're gonna move around here. Let's see if I can actually kill myself here. No? Okay. Can I push this? Yep. I can push this. Oh, I can actually still kill myself. Okay. So. Interesting. Okay. Now, as you progress in your own game kind of aspect, if you're you eventually want to get to a point where you have something that will test the game out for you, or have some kind of testing script or something that will basically do all the processes for you, or at least that's typically like the best process of it, kind of thing. And if there's any kind of errors or whatnot, then it will why is my stream being so slow right at the moment? Yeah, if anyone's watching, are you getting a whole lot of lag on the stream? Because right now I'm you know, my phone is showing me that it's just constantly kind of slowing down, so I'm hoping that you know, what I'm seeing on OBS over there is coming is getting to you guys properly, but I don't know, man. It's leave a comment in the chat, let me know if you guys are seeing me consistently, or if there's some problems in the stream. So I am recording it, so hopefully if this is kind of lagging out on here, I will be putting this up on YouTube, so just bear that in mind. I will try to take care of this, or you know, the video will be on YouTube, so you're more than welcome to hop over there and see the video when I release it tomorrow. So, okay, so getting back to the testing process here. Now, I was kind of messing around a little bit with the green and the box and all that kind of stuff, but what I wasn't doing was I wasn't pushing the character up against all the walls and whatnot. Now, I don't want to waste your guys' time with the whole, you know, pushing up against the walls every single map that I go to. So, I myself, right at this moment in time, with the tutorials, I'm going to assume all the walls work. Okay, but if you're designing a game for the first time and it's only yourself, you best be kind of pushing all the buttons, all the walls, all the lasers, everything, man. And whether or not you do that yourself, or you do that through like a script or a tool or a utility that can do the testing for you, either way, it should be done, okay? Because if you have any single game problem in your game and your program and your application, it's just going to ruin that experience for your user, for the player, for the basically for the user. Okay, so make sure to cover that kind of aspect in your testing. If you don't, good luck to you. Because I've seen too many games where you do a certain aspect and it crashes on you every single time, and that's a bug that is missed, and it basically ruins the gameplay completely. Okay, or ruins the application. I mean, it's one of the concepts of why I don't really use Linux all that much, because I was able to actually find a problem in the graphical utility that I was working on coding program using one of their coding utilities, and because I pushed a couple buttons in a certain sequence, it caused a crash every single time. And the problem was that those buttons were right next to each other. Okay, and I had it happen to me 2 times, during my lifetime of actually using, that one operating system for Linux. Okay, and that basically soured my experience for it. I lost a lot of, I lost a lot of time and effort because, I didn't save right then and there. So all that code that I initially went with is gone. Okay, it's one of those aspects where it's like the whole concept of like RPGs, save early, save often kind of aspect. You know, it same goes with programming. Always save your progress, no matter what. If you have a spare second kind of thing, hit that, control S or whatever to save what you've done so far. So, because who knows what would happen that can basically remove all your progress. So yeah, okay. Getting back to this. Okay, so it's telling me to move to the red square. Let's see. I'm gonna not actually I'm gonna try to step on the red square. I'm trying to kind of try to skim it a little bit, see where the hitbox is. Okay. It's looking like they did a good job on the hitbox for the square there, but it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to kind of get past it for the laser. Well, let me try it, but... Right. So while I did press the red box, which did the next portion of the tutorial, I was still able to hit the laser, which is understandable because I'm not actually stopping it, and I died right then and there. So let's try it again. There. So now we can see, we still can't complete the level because we can't get past the second laser. Exit play mode, so let's continue. Okay, next. Highlighted window is called a hierarchy window. A hierarchy window is a list of everything we can see in the scene view. We use the hierarchy window to organize and view objects in the scene. Okay. The Box 2 game object does not respond to physics forces and cannot be pushed by the robotic arm. We need to add a rigid body component to this game object too. This time, let's practice using the hierarchy window to select the game object. Select a game object called Box 2. Okay. Add the rigid body component to the selected game object. Now we've already learned, add the component, go to physics, add the rigid body. So there we go. Add the rigid body component to the selected game object. So we basically applied what we learned for Box 1 to Box 2 now. So okay, so once again, arrow keys work. WASD work. Let's restart it. Good. Alright. Now I do that. Okay, now here's something that they missed a potential addition for this particular tutorial. While the number 1 box, quite understandable. Okay, this kind of process is something that would be quite difficult to kind of to demonstrate based off of Box 1, because the concept is, while we had to add the physics, the rigid body, to Box 1 and Box 2, stating that they have to be susceptible to physics, that doesn't what the tutorial isn't helping you, though, is the fact that the platform and the little red pusher here is also dealing with physics in some fashion or another. The platform is using physics to hold the 1 box, and the little pusher there is using physics to push the box. Now, if I was to do anything with this particular tutorial, I would look at this as add like a third, like maybe a third box, and show that the third box has physics in it, but the pusher doesn't. So you still have that, it like pushing through the box kind of aspect, like what you did initially with the number 2 box and the pusher. But this time, it's because the pusher doesn't actually have any kind of physics based off of it that, again, causes that problem. Now, if the people at Unity sees this kind of thing, then feel free to use that, for your later tutorials. I have no problem helping you guys out with that. So, but this is still one of those aspects where it's like, we added rigid bodies to the boxes, but the platform and the pusher still need to use physics themselves to get to get that process done. So let's go ahead. Okay, still get a little musical or the sound effects for whenever you step on the platform, and you can kind of see a slight graphical glitch with the character. So that's that's kind of unfortunate, but um, it this is something that you could probably take care of coding wise. You know, you could basically state once this button has been activated, it doesn't need to be activated afterwards, like a boolean kind of thing. You know, just to have a set boolean that basically says, has the arm been pushed? If false, button is available to be activated. If uh, if true, then ignore all collisions based off of the player with the red square. I think the same could be said with the green, I believe. Let's see. Yeah, I can see a slight graphical glitch with the character as he's trying to um, go across the green arrows, whereas those he's like tripping on it. So, but let's see. Interesting that I can't actually go. See, this is what I'm talking about. The crane itself has a certain amount of, or the little pusher here has a certain amount of physics to it. So, interesting. So I just pushed the box a little bit, and you could kind of hear the pushing sounds kind of come through, but it was completely overshadowing the laser. Um, so uh, you would think if you wanted to uh, build this game yourself, you'd want to have both sound effects going at the same time because they are. So and the duration of the sound is consistent. It's constant, so there's no um, you know, I just push it a little bit and it repeats the same duration of the push sound, um, same uh, duration of the sound. So that's something, if I was designing this game from scratch kind of thing, that's something that I would want to consider fixing because it doesn't reflect upon what the character is actually doing, you know. I killed myself. Alright. So let's go ahead and continue on with the process here. Get the game done. Okay. Same thing with the fireworks once again. This actually reminds me of a game that I actually worked on with a professional company. They've since closed their doors, which kind of made a few people sad at it because they did fair amount of decent games back in the day, but the one that I uh, worked on uh, worked on with them. Um, one of the they had something very similar to what's going on right now. They had fireworks at the very end of the level. You complete the level, you had some fireworks, and they they wanted to have these fireworks at the end of every single game. The problem was that uh, I noticed the fact that because each one of the levels was done by one of their one of their different senior programmers, they didn't, they designed it, in their own fashion kind of aspect, but um, the ending process wasn't consistent. So while you could actually get, uh, while you might get fireworks for one level, you wouldn't get it on the second because the ordering of the process was, different between them all, and uh, you suddenly had, fireworks for level 1, but you didn't have fireworks for level 2. No fireworks for level 3, but you had fireworks for level 4. I actually saw a review about it, and the commenter was very confused as to why one level had fireworks and one level didn't. I actually tried to help them with that. I tried to present code that was basically like a boolean that basically said if the fireworks animation hadn't been triggered, to trigger it. If it had, then they didn't need to re-trigger the fireworks animation. Okay, but it was so late in the game process, the game development, that and I was fairly new to the company. I mean, I had only been there for about 3 months by this point in time, so um, they because my code changes was affecting the entire game, all the levels, they didn't have the time to go back and test every single last level again to see whether or not my effects would cause any unknown situations. So I can't blame them for that. I presented my code to the senior programmers there, but when it came right down to it, they didn't have the time to test it out. If the fireworks concept was a little bit earlier in the process, like when I first started there, then my change might have actually worked. Might have helped them out in fixing that particular bug, but it wasn't. So it's just something that I remember from my time with the company. So I'm not gonna name names or anything along those lines because I don't want to cause any problems later on. If they see this commentary by me, then I mean no offense. I understand from their side of things, the process that they had to kind of go through. I understand the deadlines and the potential damage that my code could have done with the game. I completely understand that kind of aspect. So it's just one of those aspects of you kind of wish that you kind of take, you can kind of go back into time, put that little code into your program and deal with that particular bug. But when it comes to programming, deadlines, getting something done, sometimes you might sometimes you might have to leave a bug like that in. Okay, it wasn't a game-breaking bug. It wasn't something that basically crashed the game on him. Okay, but it caused confusion to the players that did play the game. It's like, why were these fireworks playing in one area and not another? It left an inconsistency, and it left confusion that you really don't want to have on. You don't want to have that potential confusion to your users or whatnot. Okay, no matter what you work on. So best to try to avoid it all the time. So we're moving on. Okay, exit play mode to complete this tutorial. Game objects and components are the building blocks of Unity. Add components to game objects to change how they behave. How to select game objects in scene view or hierarchy window. How to use the inspector window to add components to game objects. Okay. And like I was saying, you know, if I was part of the Unity team and I wanted to try to add to the whole game objects and components and so on and so forth, then I would modify, like add a third box or modify the robotic arm to also not have the rigid body physics aspect or whatever it might have to um, cause that additional physics problem with it. So, uh, but based off of what I'm seeing there, it doesn't really look like it has a whole lot of additional details to it. Based off of what I'm seeing here, there's no arrow, so does it even have an inspector? Well, it's neither here nor there. I'm gonna move on to the third tutorial here, tweaking components, values versus zombies. Okay. Okay, well, I don't save the changes you made to the scenes. I don't really need to. Um, so, if I want to kind of revisit it, it's better for me just to not even deal with saved aspects, so I'm just not going to save it. So, you want to keep this project? No, I don't really want to keep it either, so I'll go ahead and forget. So, once again, we go through the package manager to bring up the third tutorial on this. So, um, I don't know how many people are actually kind of watching the stream. Um, if you are watching, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. Um, hope you're enjoying me learning the tutorial. Um, maybe uh, maybe me going through the tutorial helps you out if you want to play around with Unity yourself. I don't really know, so we'll see what happens. Okay, so we got a larger information here. The editor layout could not be fully loaded. This can happen when the layout contains editor windows not available in this project. What? Okay. Um, what's going on here? Okay, so far, this doesn't bode well because um, it's not bringing up any of the tutorial panels or aspects. I mean, it's giving us like uh, the hierarchy and the inspectors, which that's great, but it's not actually showing the tutorial process of this. Um, so yeah, I'm going to try to go back to the home screen if I can. Interesting. It's a C-sharp project. Okay. I've never learned C-sharp personally, so if I'm going to be, if Unity works exclusively on C-sharp, then that's going to be an interesting process. Um, okay. Well, this really doesn't do anything for me, so, and I don't see anything off of what I can see here that shows me how I can easily get back to that home screen easily enough. So I'm just going to try to exit. No, I don't want to keep this project. Um, Okay, so that's exited out of everything there. That's wonderful. So let's go ahead and get the Unity back up here again. And let's try to go back to learn and try this particular project out again. The opening of packages and whatnot seemed quite quick, so it could have been maybe the download didn't go through all the way maybe, and it missed some of the packages necessary to bring the tutorial up completely. I don't really know. Could be a problem with the tools themselves. Okay, and once again, failed to import package. Unity Technologies Interactive Tutorials Lesson-3 Unity package. Okay, so something's going on there. Either I didn't, when I did the download, it didn't download it properly. So it's not coming up automatically. So let's go ahead and exit out again because I mean, I need this tutorial to work for me. If it doesn't, um, then Unity has a problem with this. So, okay, let me see. Is there any way that I can kind of re-download this? It doesn't look like I can. I can't do like a right click or anything like that to do a re-download of it. I've already confirmed that. Just starting it up from scratch does nothing to it doesn't start up properly. So let's see. Is there anything that I can kind of use to restart the download on here? And it doesn't look like there is. Okay. Let's see. Maybe if I click open, I can do the tweaking components on its own. I don't know. I'm not really seeing much. Okay. So I'm not seeing anything there. Let me do a quick Google search, see if I can find some additional details um, on this Unity basic tutorial. Uh, 3 uh, 3 um, versus zombies re-download. Okay. Okay. That doesn't really help me. Tutorials are broken. Try running Unity in debug mode with following command line. Okay. Well, if anyone from Unity is watching this stream, which I kind of doubt, saying that, it's Sunday night, that during normal work hours, then maybe you can kind of let me know what I'm missing here, because um, this is kind of problematic. I can't get through the tutorial if it doesn't come up. Hmm. Let's see. Re-download tutorial. Hey, remove packages already downloaded. Let me try that out. Remove package already downloaded from the asset store. Well, that doesn't exactly help me. Um, hmm. Okay. Let me see um, if I can find that information. So give me 1 second here, folks. Uh, App data, roaming, Unity. Let's see. Package. Okay, I'm not really seeing anything there. Ah, here we go. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out real quick. I'm going to go ahead and delete lesson 3 and 4 because that might have some yeah, okay, one second. I want to make sure that I'm only showing, what I want to show here, folks. So give me a second while I'm, make sure that I'm not showing any kind of like, sensitive information or anything along those lines. So, so, okay, there's that. Let's go back live here. Okay, um, so I just looked under the Unity technologies within I saw, the roaming Unity and Unity technology is, asset store. So, um, so I just looked in there, Unity Technologies Interactive Tutorials, and I saw lesson 1 through 4 on there. Now, I'm going to see about like restarting Unity again and see um, if maybe those lessons are gone from the home page. I'm kind of hoping that they are, but I don't really know. So uh, we'll see what happens. So let's start up Unity once again. Okay, so learn. Yeah, okay, so 3 and 4 are available. I'm going to just go ahead and click on download for one of them because I have a funny feeling that because I did download for, like 2, 3, and 4 all at the same time, maybe it didn't download all the necessary assets for 3 and 4 properly. I didn't test for the fourth tutorial, but I didn't necessarily want to skip over to it anyway. So let's go ahead and start this back up and see what happens. I'm hoping that it will bring up the tutorial properly. Otherwise, I'll have to just send um, a um, a bug report to Unity and tell them, hey, this is a slight problem with your tutorials. So I'm hoping that won't be the case, but we'll see. We'll find out. It looks like it's taking a little bit longer. Yeah, I'm seeing that for the first time, or for the second time, I should say. So once again, I'm just gonna kind of hold off on that for now. Again, I don't know why they would have not the latest version on there. Maybe this one is the stable version and the new version is in like the alpha stage. If that's not the case, then why hasn't the new version been pushed to the download page? I don't really know. That's their business. So okay, so lesson number 3 did come up properly. So, yeah, this I can make a hypothesis that because I was clicking on download for the multiple lessons all at the same time, that might have had an issue with downloading the necessary resources. I don't really know, but that's probably something that um, uh, that the folks over Unity will probably need to test out and determine whether or not there is indeed a problem with the downloads. You know, if there's a problem with trying to download at the same time. It's the only and it's the only idea as to why it would have a problem with what I did. Um, Unless it might have been something along the lines of maybe um, my internet connection kind of fluctuated and it didn't download it properly. Um, these are two concepts that I personally can think of. So, um, but I'll send them. Uh, let's see. Let's go ahead and report a bug right now. See what that takes me. Does it open up a window here? Yeah, it does. Okay. Problem related to not really crash bug per se, because it still loaded up the editor, but it did not I mean, it loaded up the editor and player and so on and so forth. So it didn't really crash the program directly. So I'm just going to switch over to services. How often does it happen? Well, it was always when I had the problem, but I was able to kind of fix it. So, ooh, email address. I'm going to save that for later, folks. So, all right. Tutorial did not load properly. Okay, details, what happened? Oh. When loading tutorial 3, the editor window would appear, but the tutorial itself would not load. The editor would only open a new project and nothing more. The attached files most likely are showing the correct outcome, seeing that this is this is the result of deleting the tutorials. the main folder. But you can see the problems that I had with the tutorial process on my Twitch/YouTube channels. Strange Bro Jim. It showed that the package was not loading. I feared either it had to do with a delay and a download at home, or it could have been that I selected download for each of the tutorials at the same time. Unknown of the root cause. Hopefully the video will give you the proper steps to reply. Okay, there we go. Okay, so let me go ahead and switch over to the webcam here real fast there, folks, so I can put in my email address. There we go. And send. Okay. Hey, I might actually have some views on the video that I didn't intend for. It's currently uploading the report, guys. So give me a second while this is occurring. But the whole views, you know, I never really wanted this to happen. So, but you know, if I can kind of help them flesh, fix any potential bugs that they might have with their system, then more power to them. You know, help where you can, because when it comes to developing any of these kind of packages, we all know that we may miss something. Okay, we may, a single individual might miss that semicolon, might miss that paren, might miss the one-off kind of error kind of aspect. Okay, so it doesn't hurt to really have any like additional eyes on a project. Okay, so when you have a project like Unity, for example, that has a lot of details in it, okay, there has that potential of having some mistakes here and there, or there might be a process that they didn't really expect when they were testing it out, or it might be something along the lines of um, they built the package in a um, uh, certain way that might not be conforming to uh, all the different possibilities that you can have out there. Like, like for example, if Sun was using, you know, like a dial-up internet kind of process, would their would the download properly, even on a dial-up service kind of aspect? And let's not uh, and just bear in mind, you know, there are some people out there with dial-up. We can't we can't always expect people to have broadband because broadband isn't available to everybody, especially if you're like talking about like the people that are out in the mountains or whatnot. So I mean, let's face it, folks. I mean, sometimes um, not everybody has like the highest speeds available. So you know, I'm lucky. I'm well, my landlord, I should say. Um, he's able to get um, some pretty fast speeds because he's fairly close to um, you know, one of the necessary hubs in order to get those fast speeds. Um, but if I was to like, you know, move to up into the Rocky Mountains or something along those lines, then uh, the infrastructure might not be there. So if someone wants to play around with Unity in their own time, kind of aspect, would their download of those tutorial packages work for dial-up? I personally don't know because I have it's not something that I can test. Maybe it's something that they can test though. Maybe they can test it. You know, maybe they can personally can slow down their download speeds and test to see whether or not the download button is um, flexible enough to actually handle the slow download speeds. Um, and if it does, if it's you know, uh, if it is able to handle the slow download speeds, then more power to them. Or you know, but it could be along the lines of because I was clicking on download the multiple times, maybe that had some problems with it too. Maybe because I had clicked on download for like the fourth, um, it cut off the download process for number three and didn't restart it afterwards. And therefore, it didn't upload the necessary package for the tutorial. I don't really know. Again, uh, I don't have a direct view of what happened on the download. It didn't show I downloaded packages through the process. It only showed the progress bar. So I don't know uh, what might have happened behind the scenes. So that's something that the folks over at Unity will most likely need to handle um, on their own time. So, boy, this uploading of the report is taking a while. Didn't expect the temp folder and the JSON scripts to take that long. Weird. Currently, I'm at 71%. And yes, folks, I'm not going to uh, I'm not going to switch it over to live because once again my email address is still being shown here. So, um, but yeah, getting back to what I was saying, the um, being a developer for applications and games and whatnot, um, you might not be able to catch everything. That's just the way of it. Okay. Um, you could um, you could design your program to try to cover as many possibilities as you possibly can, to cover all um, the oddities, the you know, you have a problem here. Did you cover for this? Did you cover for that? Are you catching all the possible exceptions that you can possibly catch? Um, but at the same time, there might be like an exception that gets thrown that you never thought was possible. You know, you could have a user that basically did something that you never expected them to do. You know, like uh, like how I was kind of showing you earlier, uh, like for tutorial one. Um, just pushing up against the walls. What's to happen? What's to say if the character went through a wall? You know, maybe you didn't really expect that to happen. Maybe you didn't expect that one particular wall to be transparent or um, had no kind of physics to them to allow for that character to kind of go running through it. You know, um, it happens. It happens all the time. Every single, you know, uh, you go to any kind of game, you go to any kind of application, and you're always going to find some kind of bug somewhere. I don't think there's ever been like an application or a game or something that didn't really have some kind of bug to it. So, um, especially nowadays where, the complexity of the applications and the programs and the games has skyrocketed. I mean, if you go back to, the 1980s and stuff like that, sure, there was bugs back then as well, um, but um, they weren't designing um, they weren't designing programs that were probably hundreds of millions of lines long kind of aspect, which, you know, a program much like along the lines of, a Windows operating system, millions of lines, easy. Uh, you know, um, Especially with all the additional applications that gets added into an operating system. So, um, yeah, um, while they still had um, like simpler programs um, back in the 70s, 80s, and getting onto the 90s. Um, the um, it they didn't really I'm sure that there were still some programs out there that still had issues when it was you know put on the floppy disks to be sent out to um, for people to use and whatnot. I'm sure that there were programs out there that were problematic from time to time, but it wasn't. Um, some of the simplest programs um, didn't really deal with a whole lot of code to have a lot of problems with it. Um, like, take Pac-Man, for example. Okay. Um, I've never heard of Pac-Man having a glitch back in the day. Okay. You could play the game without any problems or anything along those lines. Um, Now, if I'm not mistaken, if you do reach a point cap, I believe it does break the game. Maybe. I thought I heard something along those lines. Um, that Pac-Man actually had a point cap. So if you went over that point cap, it um, either gave you like an ending screen or it gave you a crash. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. Um, but it wasn't like, hey, I'm moving Pac-Man up against the wall and suddenly the game crashes. That 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 didn't really happen. So, but then again, um, the original game of Pac-Man had no changes to its maze. There wasn't any change uh, to its landscape, to its playing field kind of aspect. So um, they didn't have to worry about that uh, that possibility of causing a bug. They tested that particular playfield and they reused it over and over and over again. And because they confirmed that there wasn't any particular problems with it, um, they um, they were able to kind of release it. So um, ooh, excuse me. Yeah, we're at 94%. Boy, this uploading is taking a while. Why is it taking so long? I mean, are we uploading gigabytes worth of data to them or something? Yeah, I don't know. Oh, and just uh, for those folks at Unity, if you're still watching this video or something like that, uh, I will admit I did not go to how to report bugs, how to do the public issue tracker, the Unity answers, the Unity forums, Unity community. I apologize. Um, you might have actually had this problem before, and you might have already addressed it before. Um, but based off of what I've seen, the fact that this problem occurred still kind of leaves me to believe that it hasn't been resolved. So, um, and I already kind of corrected the problem, so I didn't really need any Unity answers. I didn't really need to go to the forums or community for this. So, um, so there wasn't really anything more that it could really get out of that. Um, the I don't necessarily need to worry about the public issue tracker or how to report bugs per se. Well, I mean, the public issue tracker, the issue hasn't been sent to you yet, so um, yeah, okay. Your report has been submitted. You will receive a confirmation email shortly. If our engineering team has more information or questions about the problem, you'll be informed of that by email as well. Okay, so, okay. Now that that's out of the way, I'll switch it back to the desktop. and we can continue on with the tutorial. So, okay, so getting back to lesson number 3 here. We can fine-tune the way that a component affects a game object by setting values on that component. In this tutorial, we will learn how to set values on the components. We use that knowledge to fix problems on another level of our game. Okay. Let's test our game to see what problems we must solve first. Okay. Go ahead and play. Yay, okay, so we have our character here. It looks like I can use the arrow keys without any problems. Once again, let's go ahead and use the WASD as well. Okay, to escape to reset. Okay, so move to the red square marker. Well, that's pretty easy because it's like right there. Okay. We can't complete this level because the enemy moves too quickly. Okay. He does move a fairly good clip. So, interesting that he's kind of behind this slight barrier here. But let me see if I can do like a kind of a running start here. Oh, he still killed me. Okay. Didn't really see him kind of clip, but that's fine. Alright, so. You can't complete this level because the enemy moves too quickly. Okay, let's click next. First we need to select the game object that we want to make a change to. Select the enemy game object. Okay. Next. Enemy game object has a component called NavMeshAgent. Okay. That component has a value called speed. Let's change that value. Set the NavMeshAgent speed to 1. In the inspector window, locate the component called NavMeshAgent. Change the value marked speed to 1. Okay. NavMeshAgent component is part of the Unity's built-in AI system. Yeah, artificial intelligence. When a game object has a NavMeshAgent component, that game object can use AI to find its way around an environment. When we set the speed value to a NavMeshAgent component, we change the speed that the game object moves around the environment. Makes sense. Test the change we have made. Play mode. Alright, so now once again we're going to move the player around a little bit. Get the arrows, get the WASD. Good. Do escape to restart. Good. Okay, so. Anyway, so now we have a really slow moving zombie there. So we're supposed to move him to the green marker. Now, this AI, unfortunately, is not very great because it's not following the player character. But you know, I mean, this is basic tutorial, so I mean, we can't really expect it to be that comprehensive. So we're gonna move this to the right brain. Still can't complete the level because the door does not stay open long enough. Interesting. That's true. Okay. So, step in the game. Moving on to the next step. First, let's select the game object that we want to make a change to. Select the automatic doors game object. Okay. Game object that we want to make a change to. Yep, that's done. Okay, So select the game object has a component called door. That component has a value called time to close. Let's change that value. Set the door time to until close to 10. Okay. Good. The component is not part of any of the Unity's built-in systems. It's made specifically for this example game. We can make our own custom components that do anything we like by writing code. Of course, we will look at writing code in later tutorials. Okay, next. So we play. And once again, let's go ahead and do the standard process of actually doing everything there. Let's go ahead and escape back. Now let's see. If I run into him, yep, I'm dead. No. Does it reset completely? Yes, it does. Okay. There was a slight graphical glitch once again with the character, as though it like trips over on the button. But, what can you do? So, let's wait for the zombie to pass, and we'll just go around him. Collect the brain. Put the character to the goal. Escape key on your keyboard to restart the game, blah blah blah. Okay, and the door closes. Okay. So, alright, on to the goal. Now, it didn't actually stop the character directly on the button. It still allowed for a certain amount of animation after the fact, but again, this is like the basic tutorials kind of thing. This is stuff that you'll probably want to do yourself to try to make sure that everything's kind of ironed out perfectly. So, and we move on. We complete this tutorial and move on to the next. So, inspector window to change values and components. Built in Unity or make our own custom components by writing code. Okay. So now that we've done project number 3, we can go ahead and download number 4, and we'll go ahead and start it. Okay, I don't want to do any kind of saving the changes or anything along those lines because I may want to come back to the tutorials for some odd reason. So I'm just going to go ahead and not save and forget about the keeping. Again, I'm not quite sure why they use really forget here. The save and don't save seems like it's more appropriate. So so I'm not quite sure exactly what they mean by, do I want to keep the project? It's like, am I completely like deleting the tutorial after the start? Does it keep me at the last step if I do keep it? Does it, I'm not sure, but I would imagine that they could probably work on the language a little bit more here. Maybe. I don't know. So. Okay, so now it's time for them to load up the last project here. Hopefully there won't be any kind of problems with it, and it will load the tutorial properly. Uh-huh. Again, what the heck? Editor layout could not fully load. This can happen when the layout contains editor windows not available in this project. Okay, so tutorial did not load. Let's go ahead and exit once again. Forget it. Okay, let me go ahead and start the Unity program up once again. See about maybe it was a slight problem with loading it up within the editor itself. I'm not sure. We're going to restart it again, see what happens. But it doesn't look like it's loading all that much. We'll see if it actually gives me an actual additional error on it. Maybe it just has a problem with the download happening within the editor kind of process. We'll see what happens. But it doesn't look like it wants to do that either. Okay, so fail to import package once again to the Asset Store Unity Technologies Interactive Tutorials lesson number 4 Unity package. So somewhere along the lines the download once again didn't work. Okay, so exit out of this. Delete lesson number 4. Start up the project once again. Learn. Download. Okay, so I saw some additional values pop up here. Interesting. Let's go ahead and close this out. Let's try this again. I want to see what actually is being placed in here. I already have hidden files being shown, so it's not a matter of the files are hidden away from view on me. So let's go ahead and see what happens here. So move this over, learn, download. Okay, so there's a couple of temporary files that are added in there. So, okay. So let's go ahead and start this up again and hope that the editor can actually retrieve all the package information that is necessary for the tutorial. Slow process in this. So this is kind of stuff that is outside my control, folks. Sorry for that. Wish I could kind of say that everything works perfectly fine every single time, no matter what, but you know, any good programmer knows that you're gonna have the potential of plenty of bugs in your code. So if you have a programmer that says I make the perfect code every single time, no matter what, they're probably lying to you, in my personal opinion. I mean, it's really difficult to find someone that hasn't made a mistake somewhere, like I said, in my personal opinion. So, okay. So when we have game up, finally the tutorial comes up. So, somewhere along the line, maybe because the download was within the editor itself, it had some kind of glitch or something that prevented it from downloading. Maybe it was my internet for some unknown reason didn't download all the package properly. Who knows? Once again, if if the Unity team is watching this particular stream and video, then maybe they can figure out what happened. Maybe they can try to figure out, that based off of what I'm showing right here, they can figure out where the error is kind of process. So, all right. We have a game object set up exactly how we want it. We can save that game object and make copies of it. We call the save file a prefab. Okay. This tutorial we learn how to use prefab to fix problems in another level of our game. Another level of our game? Let's test our game to see the first problem that we must solve. Press the play button. Okay. Move to the green triangle. Okay. We cannot complete the level because we cannot reach the goal. Is that correct? I'm not really seeing any kind of stairs or anything, but yeah, it's looking like able to really do anything there, so weird. That hitbox is really large. Oh, what the heck was that? It looks like the guy jumped. There it is. Oh well. But yeah. Move on. Cannot reach the goal. The highlighter window is called the project window. Project window shows all the files that are used in our game. These files are called assets. Assets include 3D models, audio files, scripts, and so on. A prefab is a template game object that we can make copies of. A prefab is a type of asset, so we can find prefabs in the project window. Okay? First, let's find the prefab that we want to use. Select the ramp prefab. Okay. That's that. You can place a copy of the prefab in our scene by dragging the prefab from the project window to the hierarchy window, or scene view. This is known as creating an instance of the prefab. Okay. Let's create a long ramp prefab. Create an instance of the ramp prefab, drag the ramp from the project window into the empty space at the bottom of the hierarchy window. Okay, what if can I actually do that? No, it's not letting me. Okay, so instead of allowing me to do it on the scene, it's only limiting me to the hierarchy here, which is good. I mean, it's the tutorial steps is kind of being very specific, so that's good. When we drag the ramp prefab from the project window to the hierarchy window, we place a copy of that prefab in our scene. Okay. There's now a ramp that our player can use to reach the higher platform. Now, here's the problem with this particular aspect here. Okay. The tutorial automatically set up the ramp in the perfect position. Okay. We're not able to actually move it. We're not able to actually rotate it or get it in the correct position. That's all taken care of for us. So I'm hoping that when we actually put an object in the editor window, it will allow us to actually move the object or rotate it or whatnot, depending on the object that we do. We still got 9 more pages to kind of go through on the tutorial, so let's see what happens. Now, I can already tell that we're still going to have some problems with the game because we still have the laser there and we have no way of getting around it. I personally can see that. Obviously, anyone can really. So the laser is going to kill our character no matter what. So we won't be able to get um, to the goal in this case. So um, so it's just basically showing us, hey, we need to get to the red ramp. Alright, so there. And once again, we're dead. Alright, so we can move on. We need to add another prefab to our scene to block the laser. Create an instance of the pushable box prefab. In the project window, locate the prefab called pushable box. Drag the pushable box prefab into the empty space at the bottom of the hierarchy window. Okay. Once again, this is the problem. Um, Initially, they said that you can actually drag one of the prefabs into the editor. So why aren't you allowing me to actually do that? You're telling me that so far, or let's see, can I? Yeah, right here. We can place a copy of the prefab in our scene by dragging the prefab from the project window to the hierarchy window or scene view. You're not allowing me to do the scene view right at this moment in time. So right now you're limiting my tutorial on this. This is unfortunate because what happens when you do drag something from the project window into the scene view? I have nothing to kind of base that off. Is it going to show up within this particular scene? Is it going to kind of appear as soon as my cursor kind of gets within the window so I can kind of move it a particular place? How am I supposed to know where it is, in the X, Y, and Z directions? I don't really know. That's so far this particular tutorial is kind of irritating me a little bit, but I mean, what can I really do? So it's basically forcing me to go directly into the hierarchy scene. So push up the box, bam. Okay, so we need to add another prefab to our scene to block the laser. Yeah, okay, so we got the pushable block. Why is there arrows on the left-hand side for most of these, but nothing for the ramp? What's that all about? I don't really know. So, alright, so we have created an instance of the pushable block prefab, but it isn't where we want it to be. We needed to move it into position. Move any game object, we can change the values of a component called a transform. All game objects have a transform component. The transform component holds data about where the game object is in the scene, how it is rotated, how it is scaled. Let's move our pushable game object into place by changing the values in its transform. Select the new instance of pushable block, which they already did it for us. Set the X position to -2. Okay. -2. Set the Y position to 2.5. 2.5. Set the Y position to 10. Okay. I want to mess around with some of the information here. See where it kind of shows us. See if it causes any kind of problems. Okay. Yeah. So, nope, nope, that didn't work either. There we go. Or no, it's not negative. What am I doing? Okay, now move that to 10, and this is happy. Now, here's the thing. With the scene and the fact that it has these arrows available, I'm going to make the assumption that I can manually move the box based off of clicking those arrows. That's my assumption right at this moment in time. So far, it's not giving me the ability to make any of those changes right now. I'm hoping that this tutorial can actually do that for me. Maybe, hey, I messed up on the Y position. Maybe I move it to a 1, so it's like right smack dab in the middle of the in the other object. So I have to, so I manually move it or something along those lines, you know. But so far it's not doing that for me. So by changing the values of the transform of its pushable game object, we have changed its position in the scene. Pushable box game object is now in the correct place. Next, enter play mode. So far, it is not giving me any access to the scene, so I have yet to be able to kind of modify anything here so far. So right now, this is only doing half of what I would like to kind of see with this particular tutorial, unfortunately. So I like the fact that you can add the objects into the scene kind of aspect, but you're not giving me access to the scene itself to make any changes there, and that's unfortunate. So, yeah, let's continue on. So, I can't do, oh, can I actually make any kind of changes? No, it's not letting me kind of, matter of fact, I can't even change any of the values here. So yeah, okay. Animation for the character is a little off when it comes to ramp. I mean, just the tripping that he's doing on the, just going down. Looks like he's kind of trying to run in a straight line, but he's doing the fall animation. So, and doing a jump off of the very front of the ramp there. I don't know. And, you know, slight little inconsistencies with the tutorial, but I mean, it's the whole animation and the you know the aspect of the character being able to kind of move with the objects that it's interacting with. That's stuff that you probably change within the code itself. So the fact that it does give you the option of actually modifying the code at some point in time is going to be a positive for this. So otherwise, you're never going to have you're never going to be able to modify for your own game if that was the case. You're only restricted to the assets and so on and so forth. So once again, And move the object. Yeah, okay. Don't know why the block has a number 3 on it. Um, I'm looking at uh, the data over in the inspector, and I'm not seeing anything with a 3. So could it be problem with the graphic on it, or I don't know. Um, yeah, just find it kind of odd why they would use 3 instead of like 1 or whatnot, but it doesn't really matter one way or another. It's just kind of it's just trying to prove the point of, you know, the fact that you have a certain limiting process for, you know, completing this particular game. So alright. Okay, so we've pretty much completed this tutorial. In this tutorial, we learned that prefab and a type of asset that is like a template for a game object, how to use project windows to see the assets in a project, and create an instance of a prefab in our scene. That's not complete though. Um, uh, okay, so we reached the end of the interactive tutorials. See more Unity tutorials and sample projects. Click done, then navigate to tutorial projects or resources. So now, um, here's where, uh, yeah, when this came up from, you know, project number 3, and we had that, that's like a little glitch once again with 4. So I'm hoping, if I, you know, when I go to tutorial projects here, um, I won't have any problems with the downloads, but uh, okay. Um, let's see, what time is it? Okay, 30 minutes left. Now, I, you know, previously did a rollerball using a previous, you know, using the previous Unity version of 5.5. I didn't really get very far with it, um, but um, in this particular instance, I fear I might as well do the 3D game kit and the 2D game kit and um, create those tutorial projects to start off with. See what information that they have on that, um, and build those. And then once I'm gotten kind of familiar and used to the tutorial that they have here, then I can continue making these uh, games that they have using the resources that they give, you know, or using information that they provided with the 3D and 2D game kit. At least that's how I'm going to kind of interpret what they're kind of going for. Um, it would be kind of helpful if they had some kind of process like, hey, um, if you want to just focus on 3D, use these particular, you know, use the 3D game kit, use the survival shooter, um, and you know, that's it. Or, you know, rollerball. If you want to just focus on 2D, focus on the 2D kit and the 2D roguelike. that kind of process. So, you know, you can basically help the creator determine, do they want to learn all the possible aspects of Unity? Do they want to just stick with the 2D game kit and just learn the tutorials for only the 2D aspect, or that kind of aspect, or maybe um, have some kind of order that you like you did with the basic tutorials. You had 1, 2, 3, and 4. You know, this kind of showed, hey, do it in this particular order. We'll teach you the basics as you go along. Blah blah blah. Be kind of nice if you had that kind of process here on the tutorial projects, but I'm going to imagine that these are a little bit more extensive, and you know um, it might not fit in the with your basic tutorial project. You had the setup already kind of done, so I'm gonna assume that if I download the 3D game kit, I'm probably not going to see the same kind of like tutorial window that I saw in the basic tutorials. Um, just guessing here. This whole tutorial window is probably not going to show up for these particular projects. Maybe, I'm not sure. Um, so it is taking its time on that though. Um, so I might not get very far in terms of this 3D game kit. So um, like I normally do, my stream normally goes from 4 to 8. Uh, I mhm. I'm trying to keep with a fairly tight schedule on this. I do it this way so that during the day I can continue sending out, you know, resumes, trying to find another job during the day, answer any emails, answer any phone calls, um, and then for the evening I can kind of interact with, uh, game players, coders, and the like, on these streams. Try to get the viewership, try to get some kind of community, some kind of rapport with, uh, you know, other streamers. Uh, I'm still fairly new to the game, so I'm still kind of learning all the ins and outs of how to be a Twitch streamer. So if there's any kind of tips that you guys can kind of give me, that'd be great. I already know that um, I can't do subscriptions and I can't do the bits until I become, I believe it's called an affiliate. Um, and I can't become an affiliate until I have 50 followers, and I have to have an average view of 3, uh, based off of the number of hours that I posted. And so far I've posted quite a bit of hours. So, um, but it's during like a 30-day window. So I'm kind of hoping that after the the first 30 days that I've gone, maybe I've hit the 50 followers, and I'll be able to um, get at least 3 viewers on my stream for one of the games, or maybe a coding session, and I will hit that affiliate um, process and open that possibility out. Um, uh, But I mean, if there's anything that you guys can suggest to me that might help me out a little bit. Um, sorry, I haven't, I have that mentality of, being the introvert, um, liking what I like kind of aspect. So, um, the, uh, it's difficult for me to consider the entertainment process because it's never been something that um, I've really done per se. Um, so yeah, but you know, like I said, anything that you guys can kind of suggest to help me out would be would be helpful. I'm not gonna turn into an extrovert overnight. That's for damn sure. Sorry, guys. Um, I'm probably gonna be an introvert for my entire life. Um, Nothing wrong with that. Bear in mind. Um, but I'm not gonna be. You're not gonna be like seeing me going out to the local mall and just running up and down the hallway screaming my heads off. I mean, that's not gonna happen. Sorry, no. um, you know, uh, that would definitely be an odd thing to see. Maybe someone has already done that. I have really no idea. I'm I don't really care for that anyway either. So, um, okay, there's only like 15 minutes left. To be honest, I don't think I'm gonna be really getting anywhere on this next game kit tutorial. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and um, shut it down from for here. Go ahead and stop it because I want to try to keep with the 4 hours of this. Um, I might have to go into the editor and try to splice the two videos together, seeing that um, the recording didn't continue based off of the download and whatnot. Or maybe I'll just upload the last 3 hours of the stream, um, after the whole download process. But at the same time, I kind of explained myself a little bit, so oh, I hate editing. But uh, I guess I'll just have to kind of suck it up and just try to work on it for this one video at the very least. So, okay. I think that's going to be it for tonight there, folks. So thank you once again for stopping by and watching, if there are anyone in there watching me. I'm not really seeing any chat windows. So, um, but, if you did, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate the views. I appreciate the follows. I appreciate um, uh, uh, the sure the time that you spent with me. I'm hoping that I gave some amount of insight or humor or something to anyone that has been viewing. Um, and I hope to see you guys again on the next stream, which will be tomorrow. I'll be once again continuing on with the game Evil Genius. So uh, I don't know. I don't know whether or not I want to do the programming as like a once a week kind of process. Maybe I can do a every other day kind of aspect. Um, Not sure. So, uh, but you know, we'll see. We'll we'll move on from there. And um, if there's any kind of suggestions that you guys want to make to me to maybe um, help me out, you know, uh, guide me in the right direction kind of aspect, then like I said, um, leave a chat message or go to my YouTube page, leave a comment there. Um, Let me know what you guys think. So, thank you once again for coming out to visit me. Thank you very much, Third Strangers, and I will see you guys in the next video. Good night for now.